Let's speak to Richard Falk now. He's a former UN Special Rapporteur on the Occupied Palestinian Territories. He joins us now via Skype from Santa Barbara in the United States. Good to have you with us. As I'm sure you know, many have long complained of impunity, of a lack of accountability in conflicts between the Israelis and Palestinians. Do you believe this to be a turning point? Will justice now be done?
Well, I think it's a symbolic turning point. Whether there is the will and the capability to actually hold Israeli leaders accountable remains to be seen, and I would say is quite doubtful given the overall political situation and given the limited authority that the International Criminal Court possesses. Nevertheless, one shouldn't underestimate the importance of this symbolic step, and it's already outraged the Israeli foreign minister, which suggests that it's not something trivial or inconsequential. It is, in effect, a move towards saying Israel has defied international criminal law. It is now at least being subjected to an international inquiry from an impartial source.
I'm interested what you meant there when you mentioned politics. So you, of course, have been in a very sensitive position looking into human rights issues. Give us an understanding, a sense of what sort of political pressures people like you come under and perhaps the ICC might come under in trying to pursue justice.
Well, it's a complicated reality, I think. We have to understand that international law is to a great degree controlled and shaped by the way in which the primary states in the world behave. In other words, the UN itself can be very effective, as in Libya, when the geopolitical forces were behind its initiative. But when those geopolitical forces try to block the implementation of international law, then it's very difficult to uphold human rights, international law. And Israel has been the beneficiary of geopolitical efforts, mainly by the United States and Western Europe, to avoid holding it accountable for compliance with international law. And so that creates a very difficult situation at the international level. I faced it in the Human Rights Council. The International Criminal Court will undoubtedly face a variety of pressures brought to bear on its budget, brought to bear on its international reputation, if it does indeed proceed to go beyond this preliminary investigation to try to issue arrest warrants or move more in a more direct way.
Now, the investigation, we understand, is linked to a territory. Who should be, in your experience with this sort of issue, who should be investigated at this point on both sides? You mentioned Israel, and of course there is a lot of human rights groups that have talked about crimes committed by Israel. One assumes probably both sides are going to be under the microscope now too.
Yes, there's no question that both sides will be under the microscope, and it would be the political and military leadership of both Israel and Gaza. I don't think the Palestinian Authority as such has had any relationship to these activities that could be alleged as crimes. What is likely to be the focus of the inquiry, what is the Israeli attack of last summer on Gaza and its settlement policy in the West Bank. And on both of those sets of issues, international law is clearly opposed to the policies that Israel has pursued. As far as the rockets that would be the focus of allegations of criminality against Hamas is concerned, the situation from the ICC point of view is a little bit more clouded because they just decided in relation to a complaint about the Mavi Marmara incident that the fact that 9 Turkish nationals were killed was not of sufficient gravity from the perspective of this international tribunal to justify a full-fledged prosecution. So since only 6 Israelis were killed, one would think that they might come to a similar conclusion, which would, of course, be politically quite problematic. My guess is they would avoid that kind of conclusion and link the Hamas allegations to the allegations against Israel and treat both of them or neither of them as subject to a fuller investigation and indictment and arrest warrants.
Fascinating the role politics sometimes plays in justice. Thanks so much for your thoughts on that.
Well, thank you so much for having me.